Hey guys, welcome to Capturing Christianity. I'm Cameron Bertuzzi, and today I'm with Lena Marlowe, who is a student at Asbury University, right? Because there's a difference between the seminary and the university, right? I'm just learning all these things. It's complicated. But anyway, so you're a student here at the university, and you have been, as I understand it, and this is kind of what we're going to get into today in the interview, is you've been here since the very beginning of the Asbury revival. And so before we get into like what your experience was like and all that, just tell me a little bit about your background, like why are you at Asbury and what kind of led to that, and how long have you been here?
Okay. Yeah, so I have a lot of connections to Asbury. So my parents worked for the Salvation Army, and Salvation Army has a lot of connections with Asbury University. And so my parents were employed at one of their Croc centers, which is like a community center. And so we met like a couple of people who go to school here, like the officers, the pastors that get their degree at the seminary, but also some officers that like volunteer at the university as well. And so I have some pastors and some friends that go to the student center there. And so my senior year of high school, I just auditioned for worship arts, and I got in and I decided to come to Asbury. I changed from worship arts, but I'm still involved sometimes with the Salvation Army and what they do, outreach and stuff. So, yeah.
So how long have you, what year are you in?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior, oh, okay.
Yep.
So you've been here a while.
Yes.
So have people been like kind of praying for revival? I know Dr. Keener's talked about that a little bit, like this is not the first revival at Asbury, obviously, so.
Yeah. Well, student-wise, I wouldn't say the whole student body was praying, but I know a couple of students that have been praying for God to show up in a new way, and just to break our hearts and renew our minds, and So.
Okay, well, now let's get into kind of like the events leading up to the, were you there in the service when, like that service that everything kind of started? You were there?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that like? Did it seem just like a normal service, or was there something special about it?
So I'm a part of the Asbury Gospel Choir, and we actually were on schedule to sing that morning, the 8th, but also the night before. Any time that we usually sing in chapel, or if we have like a concert, we pray the night before over the space. And so the director, me, and 2 other students, and then a family was also there, and we prayed over the space, and we just asked God to show up in a new way the next day. We asked for reconciliation and just for God to come down and pour out his spirit on, just the chapel service. And so the next day, Wednesday, the 8th, Gospel Choir went on stage as we usually do. We usually do one song in the beginning and then one song at the end. But we were asked to do both songs in the beginning and then come up for like a response song. And so we came up after Zach, who was the speaker that morning, and we sung Goodness of God, just me and 2 other members of the gospel choir. And we just kept singing. And maybe that lasted for like an hour. Maybe 10 students were still there. We left the stage, and we kind of all just individually went into our own bubbles and just prayed and sung, and eventually it multiplied, as you know, and as people know. But it was very personally, like my own spiritual like outlook on it is, it felt like there was like, it was like a thin veil, like trying to be like ripped and kind of like pushing, and it wasn't going to start until students started pouring in. And I'll kind of talk about like what that kind of looked like the couple days after that and what God was speaking to me about. But it felt like we were pressing it against something that was like very, very gentle and delicate. And we just needed to keep pressing forward. But like, as most services, it has structure, it has a timeline. Students had to go to class. So we eventually ended, but when they asked us to come on stage, they dismissed after like a couple of choruses, and we just kept singing after that. So.
I like the term that you used, gentle, because last night I was there at the chapel. Is it a chapel or auditorium? The big one. It's auditorium, right?
They call it Hughes Auditorium, yeah.
But it's like a chapel still. It's like a worship center or something.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I was there, and I definitely like sensed something, and it seemed like, that seems like a good way to describe it, is like it was a gentle kind of experience. But so, okay, now getting into like do you think that this like qualifies as a revival? Would you say that this is?
I don't like really using the word revival. I feel like to the world, definitely, and the definition of what people were praying for, like when there's generals, there's teachers, there's leaders in the church, Big C Church, that have been praying for this for years, and they've prayed for revival. Like that's the word that they probably have been using in prayers. But I feel like this was more of an encounter on the student body level. For us, I can't speak for the thousands that have come here. There's definitely different words that have been used, but for me, it was more of an encounter than a revival.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much personal experience with like other revivals. I know I grew up evangelical, and I think at one point we attended some like church that was quote unquote in a revival. And the only thing that I really know about revivals is that I guess usually they're like accompanied with miracles too. I don't know if that's like have there been any miracle reports or anything like that during these?
Yeah, I've heard a couple of students say that they've seen miracles. A couple of faculty, staff, prayer team members that have said that they've prayed over people and they've experienced miracles. I haven't seen any firsthand, but I believe that God is a God of miracles, and if he was there, then it definitely was possible. So.
Well, what about I hope you don't mind me asking, the people outside that were like protesting? Have you heard their message, or what do you think about the critics of the movement?
Well, to start off, I don't know specifically each time that there's been protesters, but this isn't the first time that Asbury has seen protesters. I mean, we had Sister Cindy. I don't know if you know who Sister Cindy is.
I don't.
She's very famous on TikTok. Maybe it's like our generation that knows her, but she comes like annually sometimes to just talk about stuff. But I think one time I was walking to lunch and I heard people screaming, and I was like, maybe the second week, and I was like, oh, people are here. They're here now. Like everyone, not just people who love Jesus, not just people
everybody,
if you know what I mean. But I just kept walking. But then I think a couple of days after, the president's office, maybe it was the spiritual life office, they emailed students and said just to disregard them and continue with our daily routines. Don't really pay them any attention, any mind. And I think at that time we definitely had support from like the Wilmore Police to just help protect campus and students. So I believe they probably were walking around monitoring what was going on. So yeah, wasn't really concerned about safety.
How often were you going to the different meetings? Was it like, I think Dr. Keener said that it had been going on like constantly. People were like there throughout the night even?
Yes.
How long did you stay, and how often did you go back?
Yes, so the first day I stayed from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. And then the second day.
And then you were like, I have to sleep.
Yeah, I was like, I will come back.
Yeah.
Then the next day, I remember skipping classes. I just don't remember what days, but I definitely skipped class Thursday as well.
Were your teachers like, that's fine, like go? Or were they like angry that?
No, I have really gracious teachers. I'm really thankful for them in this season because I'm a senior and I'm taking 19 credits. So I could have easily had really hard teachers, and I could have possibly not been able to catch up because of the work that I had. But no, my teachers were really gracious. I believe that Dr. Brown probably, I don't remember what day it was, maybe it was Friday or the next week, he had a meeting with faculty and staff and just talked about like what was happening, what was going on. And a lot of faculty and staff have come over the couple of days and like saw what their students were going through, but they're really gracious. I mean, I skipped classes, but they were able to like tell me what was going on in class. I made up some assignments. They did count as absences, but I've had some teachers like dismiss it. So, but yeah, the Thursday I was there for, I think maybe I went around 12, and then I ended up leaving at 1 a.m. again. And then Friday I was there like all day. And then the weekend I was there all day as well.
It strikes me as, I mean, some people want to say it's a movement of God. Some people don't want to say it's a movement of God because it's like kind of people choosing to go and worship and everything. I don't really care too much about that. It's what it strikes me as, even if we don't want to call it a revival, like people are sincerely wanting to come and worship God. And to me, it's like, what is your problem with that? You know, apart from like all the theology and everything else, it's like people are coming in. I mean, when I was there last night, if last night was any indication of what's been going on since the beginning. It seemed very sincere and genuine, and like people really wanted to draw close to God. So I don't know. I don't really have a question in there, but any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing is like the heart posture of it all. I think, well, not I think, we're called to worship. And, you know, in scripture talks about like there's going to be a time to worship the Father in spirit and truth. And if like the time is now, and it has been now, but sometimes it takes a very unique and weird thing to happen to catch our attention, which sometimes I feel like it's really sad in God's eyes for that to happen. I mean, it's beautiful when all of his children come together at a weird time. I mean, it was coincidentally like it landed on the same day, I believe, as the 1970. I'm maybe butchering this because I really don't know the history that well, but a lot of things have been happening that are like very skeptical, which is true. But as believers, we see in the Bible miracles, signs and wonders that are weird that we don't. But as Christians, like we need to start believing that like the skeptical things and the weird things are actually reality for us. Like we shouldn't be surprised when God shows up in this weird way, because that's what he wants to surprise us with. That's what he wants to gift us with. So yeah, I think it's beautiful to come and see people worship, but I think when we all gather, like do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have 2 older sisters and 1 younger brother.
Yeah, like when you all get together, sometimes it's tension, sometimes it's fun, sometimes you guys battle. Like it's the same way as it was here. Like people had conflict, people loved each other, people had differences. We saw people from different generations and different denominations. Like I think it was a beautiful thing, but sometimes we need to get our eyes off of the things that are like gonna easily just split us up versus the thing that we're all here for, to like see the glory of God and what actually started. So
yeah, that's good. I'm just gonna leave it there. I think that was a beautiful note to end it on. I appreciate your time coming on. Is there anything that we've kind of missed, like anything that I should have asked about, or anything that you've seen or experienced that was like that kind of stuck out in your mind? Were you, well, let me ask this maybe. I was talking with some police officers outside last night, and they said that on Saturday, which I don't know what day that would have been, they said the entire like field, the grass was like filled with people. Were you here for that? I saw a
picture of that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Saturday was it this past Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, I was sick.
Oh, okay.
I was real sick, but I was doing laundry. I needed to do laundry because I was really behind. But I like every hour I would come out and the line would just keep getting longer. So, excuse me, it was from like our chapel all the way to our Luce Center, which is like the athletic department area fields. And then plus the we call it the semicircle where the girls' dorm is, and the Hager administration in the Hughes Auditorium. That whole field, I did see people like kneeling, because what started to happen is we had overflow. So maybe like the first weekend we realized that we needed to open seminaries, Estes Chapel, and then I believe like another nearby church. And then they put speakers outside for people who still wanted to hear worship but were in line waiting. So it's a good example of, and I know it's been going around on social media, and especially some students that are kind of like, we want our home back. The Spirit isn't only in Hughes, and we had to keep reminding people of that, because people were really getting upset. Like, I could only be in here for an hour, because they were asking people like, oh, if you've been here for an hour or two, can you please get up and
let others come in?
Yeah, that have traveled from far away. And that requires humility and just a sense of pride to go away. And so some people were sitting outside and still listening to worship, hoping to get inside. And I just think of like the times where Jesus was healing all day and his disciples were like, we need to wrap this up. He needs to eat. And he's just like, why are you guys arguing about this? Like, this is my Father's work. Like, come on. So there was a couple times I had to be humbled too. Like, Lena, you need to sit down somewhere and just take it in, you know. So.
Well, it's so cool that you were here, like at attending a university when something like this happened. Like I doubt that you were expecting it during your senior year to just blow up like this.
I knew that something was going to happen. I just didn't know what it was going to be. I had that much faith in my Father, but I just, I feel like sometimes he does give us like insight a little bit, like it's coming, like just wait, prepare yourself, like prepare your heart. But you never know what that looks like. Like I thought maybe I would have conflict with someone, or I'm a student leader on campus, like maybe a couple of students needed prayer about something. And I was just like, oh, I need to like prepare my heart for some hard things. But I would have never thought that it would be somebody from Moscow coming into my cafeteria and asking for prayer, or students from Uganda like calling Asbury and asking if it could be live streamed. Like I never thought that it would be like the small detail. Not saying those countries are small, but the things that we don't think about on a daily basis impacting my life as a student, a girl from New Jersey that like would never think that she would be a pivotal part in this, just as a student leader and praying and interceding. Like I didn't think that he would pick our generation for such a time as this, that people talk down on our generation a lot about like, whoa, we're so far gone. Like, no, he used us and still is using us. Like, I just never would have thought that. So.
I'm a little bit old, forgive me. I'm a millennial. So.
We still love y'all.
Okay. What, are you Gen Z?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're right on the edge, right?
I was born in 2001, so I don't think so.
When is Gen Z? So I
think
know.
Gen Z starts 2000 to 2015.
Oh. Wow.
I think. I'm probably getting that so wrong. But
okay.
Millennials, I think that stops at 1999. This is bad.
Yeah, we don't know anything, do we? It's okay. It's okay. There's a different generation, younger generation, older generation.
But we can learn from each other.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the intergenerational, it's been hard, but they helped us a lot this past couple weeks. So.
No, but yeah, I think it is cool that, like you said, a younger generation, like things are really happening. It was really cool to see that, like the whole worship team and everything, everyone's just like students. They're all young. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? Like everyone on the worship team is students, or there's?
Well, so the man who has been anointed to help lead, he's really just been listening to whose heart really needs to be on stage at certain points. But I know that there hasn't really been faculty and staff, but it hasn't been older people. I would say like maybe 19 to maybe like late 20s I've seen, but also I haven't been in there 24/7. Like I had to shower, I had to eat, so I haven't been in there all the time. But it has been like the younger generation, and definitely millennials, like mostly like youth pastors too.
Maybe even alumni.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. All right, well, again, thanks so much for coming on and talking about your experience here. This has been really fun. I mean, it's cool for me personally to experience it and see it, but I can only imagine what it was like to be here from the beginning, and then just hearing your stories of like people from Moscow, you know, and coming and praying with them, and it's just really cool. Yeah. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next Capturing Christianity video. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you later.